This is the Sports Hounds Real Sports Bark Podcast, bringing you current events, news, NFL, NBA, MLB, soccer, UFC, boxing, and more. Make sure to hit us up on the website, thesportshound.com. And now, here's your host, Tigsta.
What is happening, everybody? It is yours truly, Tigsta, and welcome to another episode of the Sports Hounds Real Sports Bark Podcast. This is episode 22, the Raiders edition. Yes, give me the autumn wind. Yeah, baby, we've been making moves all off season, gearing up for the draft coming up in April. So get ready. The Raiders are back, baby. We're plugging holes in free agency, and now in the draft, all I expect them to do is to draft building blocks for both sides of the ball. You know what I mean? Stuff that you build around. So let's get this going. Episode 22, the Raiders edition. Let's get into it. Now, as you guys already know, in free agency, the Raiders made a splash. First of all, let's start off with the Antonio Brown move, which was a brilliant move for a third and a fifth round pick for this gentleman and a new contract, which he deserves for his productivity on the field. You can't argue with this dude as far as being one of the top receivers there are, and could go down as one of the best in history once his career is over with. For the Raiders to go ahead and make this move after dealing Amari Cooper last year for a first-round pick to the Dallas Cowboys, a lot of people were upset at that, but I understand as far as a business standpoint that the production that Cooper was giving you was not consistent. It just was time to move on. And then as far as Gruden is trying to put a team together, he told you when Gruden first came back into the fold of the Raiders, he let it be known he wants grown men on the field. And what I took by that was the fact that when he says grown men, we're not talking about in their 30s type players, you know what I mean? When he say men, he means the way that they conduct themselves, how they bring a lunch pail, blue collar work ethic, you know what I mean? The work their butts off to become starters, to become stars. It wasn't given to them as a first round pick. A lot of these free agents that they went out and got, and then Antonio Brown as well being in a trade, him being a 6th round pick, shows you that he had to work his butt off to get to where he's at and to get this contract he has. Now, a lot of people say, oh, he's selfish, he quit on the team. He might have been able to handle that differently, yes. But the end result is he did not want to be there no longer with Roethlisberger. A lot of other players also spoke on it either briefly or, you know what I mean, off the record that Roethlisberger thinks he's the owner, the way he just greater than thou type mentality rather than it's us, team us. You can see the big difference with Antonio Brown and Derek Carr, and these have just been a few days since he's been with the team after signing his deal, that these two dudes are doing everything it is in their possible control to get this on the same page, to build a chemistry, to have that camaraderie where the quarterback and the star receiver are on that same page, where they think alike, they see the defense is the same, they expect the same out of each other and just can time each other. Timing is a key playing the quarterback position, and this is exactly what John Gruden went out here to go get. He got him a receiver that will bust his butt for his quarterback if his quarterback does the same for him and don't throw him under the bus or any of that old ticky-tacky type bumping heads type situations that you have like in Pittsburgh. Because Antonio Brown wasn't the only one to say that of Pittsburgh. Le'Veon Bell says just as much, and you had former players come out and say the same. So where there's smoke, there's fire. So it is what it is. New chapter in his life. He's with the Raiders now, Antonio Brown that is. And I'm looking forward to see him on this field with Carr. Now, the way Mike Mayock and John Gruden is doing this, now that I'm starting to see everything come into play and fall into place, I'm understanding exactly what it is that these guys are doing to build this team. And I tell you, this is a very, very smart way of approaching this. With Derek Carr, you got to remember, Derek Carr's best season was 2016. 2016, he had a hell of an offensive line. He had Donald Penn, healthy Donald Penn on the left. He had Osemele come over. You have Hudson. You have Jackson. You had players on your line. The right tackle was, to me, the only suspect part of that line. But when healthy, that's what gave Carr all that time to make those throws. Not only that, did he not have, okay, we go with the left tackle, Donald Penn, protected him, Pro Bowler that year. Got to remember, he was a Pro Bowler, so he kept Carr upright. But look at his receiving targets that Carr had. He had Cooper and he had Crabtree. Cooper, to me, never was a number one receiver. And what I mean by that, a lot of people go, what you mean out of number one receiver? He was first rounder. Look at his numbers. His numbers is inconsistent. If you want to go check his list of stats, go look at it. Inconsistency up and down that thing from all the years he been with us. He came out the gate hot, and it started seeming that the sizzle started to fizzle. You know what I mean? Later in his career. What I trying to say as far as a number one receiver goes, it's more than just ability in what you do. It's also your attitude and the way that you gravitate other players towards you to follow you and to be like you as far as your work ethic goes. You don't see younger receivers want to go with Cooper and be like, oh yeah, let me get some ideas and some little, coaching up from you. What should I do? How should I run this route and so forth? You never seen that. Or you never seen Amari Cooper go out and grab these dudes to him and say, look, this is what we got to do as a team. It's not his personality. His personality is not a rah-rah alpha male type dude. You give him his directions and he goes. You know what I mean? He's a good yes man, put it that way. Now, Antonio Brown, on the other hand, is the kind to motivate his receivers. He'll go tell them, let's go. After practice today, we're staying and we're going to catch passes and we're going to go ahead and work on our routes. He will demand that. He is an alpha male. That's what Mayock was saying. We have an alpha male in the receiving corps now. One to take control and be the leader of this group. The Raiders did not have that with Cooper. Cooper is not that kind of receiver to just, come on, this is what we got to do. He doesn't have it in him. That's not a knock on him. His personality is not for that. To me, Cooper is a hellified number two receiver. To fall in line with an alpha receiver, number one, that, this is what we got to do to be better. Everybody has to be accountable. Now, you guys laughed when this is what AB was saying when he came at the press conference about being accountable, and what you would do is, I can bring stuff to this team as far as if we drop passes, we'll have a fine jar. We'll find you for the passes you drop to make you more accountable, which that's a good little thing to do amongst themselves. You know what I mean? That's a good way of getting everybody involved and making everybody accountable, even himself. Now, when you have the number one receiver taking accountability, then you figure all the other receivers under him has to fall in line and do the same thing. That's just the pecking order. That's the way it goes in a structured situation when you have a head of something and you want him to lead by an example. It's easy to sit there and tell you did this wrong, you did that wrong, go back and do this and do this. But if it does not pertain to you as well, then they're not going to look at you and be like, well, you dropped the pass too. Why you didn't get fined? He's going to take himself accountable and do the same thing. That's just why they went out there and got this dude. He's top receiver in the league, 15 touchdowns last year, regardless of any kind of, there was never no off-field type situations with him. He didn't beat up his girlfriend or his wife. He didn't get tested positive for, steroids and come on now. You guys are talking about the feud he had between him and Roethlisberger, which, like I said, it's been documented that other players said the same. But enough of that. Let's get to our Raiders about, this team and the moves that it's making. That was a heck of a move getting Antonio Brown. The second best move I thought that they did was Trent Brown. Getting Trent Brown from the Patriots was a perfect thing to do, because we knew that Penn was getting older. And what happened is, you got to go back and look too. Last year, it was the injuries that was happening to Donald Penn that forced Colton Miller, the first round pick from last year, to jump into the starting spot at the left tackle. To me, I don't think he was ready yet. I think he had to be teached and taught and groomed to become a left tackle, but they had to throw him into the fire just because of the injuries that occurred. You also had Assembly being hurt. I mean, they played musical chairs up and down his offensive line all last season. I mean, you had to bring in Feliciano. You had to bring in, man, you just had to swap out a lot of different people at different spots because of injuries. So now what you do is you bring in Trent Brown, a massive dude, 6'8", 380 pounds. He's a youngster at 25 years of age. The dude was solid at right tackle for the Niners. And Von Miller even spoke highly of him at that position, as well as even a left tackle. You got to remember, this dude is only 25. There is a lot of mass that a defensive end has to go around to get around this dude. And don't look at Trent Brown as like being a big, unorthodox, uncoordinated, unathletic type left tackle, because he's far from that. And I think if you put him on the weights for a minute to just get that upper body strength, he's already strong, but see, that's his weight behind him. If you can get him with pure strength coming from the shoulders on those punches towards these defensive ends, it's going to stall them just enough for Carr to go ahead and sit in that pocket and get rid of the ball. Now, the other thing that I got to mention with the receivers, because we also went out and got Tyrell Williams, who was a free agent from the Chargers. 6'4", 210, I think he is, receiver, 4'9" or 4'6", something like that he ran. 40 wise, so he's a fast, big target for Derek Carr. But at the same time, now that they're going out and getting this speed for the receivers, that means they can hit their mark a lot faster than a slower receiver, which means the ball will get out of Carr's hand faster. See, people don't realize that. Oh, you got Trent Brown. A lot of critics. Trent Brown came from the New England Patriots, but you got to remember the ball's only in Brady's hand for like 2.6 seconds. Okay, well, if that's the case, let's do the same thing for Carr. Let's make it so Carr can get the ball out of his hands 2.6 seconds. How you do that? Let's get faster receivers. Let's get receivers to get to their point faster than a slower receiver, therefore allowing Carr to get rid of the ball sooner. You see what I mean? Now you got a big, massive left tackle that you can coach up to help him with his blind side to give him that time as well. So I understand what Gruden and them is doing, and they're brilliantly putting an offense together that all works together as a unit. It's not just an individual type thing on here. It's a unit. Everything is going to serve as helping other parts of the offense, such as, like I said, fast receivers allow Carr to get the ball out of his hands faster, which that's what Trent Brown is used to in New England, is having a quarterback get the ball out of his hands faster. Therefore, the clock in his head can be the same clock in Oakland as it was in New England as far as protection goes. Him looking at his film, though, the dude is strong, the dude is smart, and he does his job. That kick out that he has coming off the line is a real quick, wide step to get out there on that island he's going to be on against those top defensive ends in the AFC West. So getting him, you gave him all that money. He deserves all that money. He still has room to grow. He's only 25 years old. Remember that. 25. So you coach him up a little more, show him more techniques and so forth. He can add to his repertoire as being a left tackle. The other addition that we had, I mentioned Tyrell Williams. Another receiver was J.J. Nelson coming from Arizona. Nice slot, smaller dude, but fast. 4'2", 640 is what he had at the combine. 5'10", I think he is, 168 pounds. He's a little light, but that doesn't matter in the slot, because here's another thing. Everybody was, I'm not going to say everybody, we going to get on these critics, because these critics is in my head right now, so I'm going to have to bring them the business, you feel me? So a lot of these critics, as far as speaking about Carr dinking and dunking last year, because he didn't have any speed at the receiver positions to stretch the field. The only one he had was pretty much Cook at tight end, because him coming out of college, he was at like a 4.49, I think, if I remember right, Cook was. So Cook is a faster, big target as well. You've seen how Carr adapted to having a big, fast target. He almost had 1,000 yards. He was the leading receiver on the team at tight end. So just imagine now that you add Tyrell Williams and you add other speed that can stretch the field.
You want sports? We got it right here. This is the Sports Hounds Real Sports Bark Podcast.
Adding these fast receivers and they play perfect position as far as I'm just looking at the lineup with AB as your number one, your number two is Tyrell, and then your slot is JJ Nelson. I mean, that's all at least a 4-4 whatever 40 and faster on that starting that's your starting receivers. That's what I would make it, the starting receivers. Now as far as tight end goes, we know that Cook has went off to the Saints, so now we have a void at tight end. But really, do we? Because Darren Waller, keep your ears open to that name, Darren Waller. We grabbed him off of Baltimore's practice squad last year and added him to our 53-man roster. Now this kid, 6'6", 255 pounds, and this dude has a 4.46 40 coming out of college. Georgia Tech, he was a receiver. His weight was at about 238, but his weight, he added more weight onto his frame, to 255, and now this dude, I seen him last year in week 16. He ran a jet sweep. Now we got a tight end running a jet sweep. Now that just tells you right there how fast this dude is. This dude is a nice big young target too. To me, he comes out the same mold of a Jared Cook, because this is also the same thing that Gruden and them mentioned too, though, that he comes out of that mold, because size, speed, and weight, they're damn near identical, So even though a lot of people is worried that, what we're gonna do now that Cook is gone, do we go in there and get Noah Fant in the draft, or whoever else available? But we have to look as far as what's on our roster, and I think Gruden and them already knew that's the route they was going to go, because we never heard anything about the Raiders in discussion with Cook to re-sign back. There's no need to re-sign Cook if we have an heir apparent that's already on the roster on a low pay scale. So that they already knew, so they let him walk. Thank you for your, your time and your blood, sweat, and tears on the field for the Raiders, Cook, but we understand now you got to go get that bag, and right now the Saints offered you that bag. Take it, man. Take it. But thank you for all your services with the Raiders, because you put in work on the field and led everybody in receiving. But we do have the heir apparent for him on the roster. Offensive line, I like what they did with Denzel Good. Another big, massive, I think he's about 6'5", 345 pounds. You added, who else did you add on this team? Oh, let's not forget about the defensive side of the ball, and we're going to get to that in a minute. As far as the offense goes, running back wise, people were wondering, is Marshawn Lynch coming back? I would like for him to come back, just because his ability to get yards after first contact is tremendous. And in this offense, with these receivers and tight ends that we have, that's a threat to go all the way, no matter who's on the field. These are legitimate threats to take every pass home to the touchdown. You know what I mean? It could be a 5-yard slant. Boom. They got the speed to go ahead and take it all the way home. So that's another thing as far as worrying about Carr with his dinking and dunking. Now these dink and dunks can lead from a 5-yard little slant or whatnot and could get to 25, 30 yards, if not more, because of the speed of these guys. So that's another thing you have to counter in. If you think of what defenses are going to have to do towards the Raiders, you figure if you have a receiving core like that, you can't stack the box, because you're going to need your safeties to give your corners help with this speed. And I know they're going to play them off the line, like give them big gaps off the line because of the speed. Therefore, them little 5-yard slants, is going to be simple to complete. So if a dude's giving you 10 yards off the line, 5-yard slants ain't nothing. And these are big enough receivers, big enough and fast enough to either get past you or give you that good stiff arm and keep it moving. So it's a brilliant way of how Gruden is putting this offense together, and I see it coming into fruition of what he sees, what he's trying to do. He has hard-working, as they call them, Gruden grinders on this squad that can make plays at any moment. Anybody on this field can make a big play. So this is what I'm expecting. I'm expecting them to take it back to what Carr did in 2016 by duplicating his success with the weapons of protection that he had then. They're duplicating it, if not making it better. So, and I think this receiving core we have now is better than that Crabtree and Cooper one. I'm just going to tell you because I remember with those, even with those two, there was a lot of drops with Crabtree and Cooper. You know what I mean? A lot of drops. Now, you look at Antonio Brown last year, he was targeted with 105 catchable passes. Catchable. Not the ones that are overthrown or short, but catchable. 105 passes he was targeted that were catchable. And he caught 104 of them. That lets you know what kind of hands this guy has, man. As far as these drops, that's going to be gone. That's going to be not even a second thought because they went out here and got a dude that has hands, has speed, runs routes, works hard. That's who you want your alpha male to be in the receiving room. You know what I mean? So they got that accomplished. So with the running backs, like I was saying, I would like Marshawn back because I just like his hard-nosed running. But I know that's exactly what the Raiders is looking to get out of Chris Warren III as well. He's a big bruiser. And they tell him, like they told him last year in training camp, they want to see him run more violently. You have the weight and height to go ahead and put them pads on these defenders that think they're going to just take you down, you know what I mean, on first impact. But you let them know, boy, you in for a long day today, so you better pack a lunch because, man, he can bruise them. He can bruise them. They cannot afford to stack the box because they're going to need help with these fast receivers, so they're going to keep the safeties back. So that means whatever hard-nosed running back that we have on the team, whether it's Marshawn or if they go to Chris Warren III as being the main man, fourth quarter comes, them defenses is going to be grinded out. And they can't expect no help in the run game. They just got to go heads up. You know what I mean? So, and I know that's going to just get tiring over and over, like what Marshawn said, over and over and over and over again, and just hand them the ball, let them run again, and just over, and he gonna grind defenses down. That's what Gruden, and I can see Gruden is looking at either Marshawn or Chris Warren as his Mike Allstott, like he had in Tampa Bay. Remember they had Allstott and Warwick Dunn. He's trying to duplicate that with the Raiders. There's two. If you look at what Gruden's doing, he's trying to take. Remember when the Raiders and the Tampa Bay Bucks was in the Super Bowl? We already know the storyline behind that with Gruden getting traded from the Raiders to Tampa Bay for draft picks, and Callahan took over for the Raiders, and then they met up in the Super Bowl. Gruden is taking the Tampa Bay and the Raider blueprint from that year and combining them into one team. He wants his Allstott and Warwick Dunn in the backfield. He wants his Tim Brown and Jerry Rice at receiver. You see what I mean? I see what he's doing. He's going with what he knows, and that's what you want a man to do. You don't want him to experiment on something he doesn't know. You know what I mean? Because it's gonna be trial and error. See, last year people, fire Gruden. They had a horrible season. But you got to remember, year one is when you implement your system. Everybody knows how complex John Gruden's offense is, and you're not just gonna grab it on day one. You feel me? You have to go and learn. You got to take your bumps and bruises to learn. Failure is your best teacher. You know what I mean? So first, you implement your system. Two, what you do in year one is you go ahead and you look at your whole roster and you analyze every position and every player. What player can stay on this team because of their work ethic, or what player is a weak link that we must replace with a stronger one? You see, you're only as strong as your weakest link. So they're going in and fixing all this. They went ahead and now we're going to the defensive side of the ball, Vontaze Burfict. Now, some people didn't like the addition of him in free agency because of his quote-unquote dirty play on the field. And I understand that. But the dude made way more non-negative plays than he does out of the the dirty play. Now, do you overlook that and just say, okay, you give him a pass? No, you want with us. What we wanted him to do is forget all the pass, cut out the dirty play, just play hard. You have it in you. You was what was he, a non-drafted player out the draft, and he worked all his way up into a starting position. That's a Gruden grinder. See, you got the work ethic to be great. You don't need to do the dirty plays. See, that's the one thing that kind of throw me off on some of these players that get dirty in the game. And I know it's football. I remember playing in high school. We was dirty with it. Fools would want to sock you in your privates and thumb in the eye and elbow you, all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? But it's war on that field. You expect it, and you just keep it moving. You know what I mean? So I understand why some fans is not feeling this addition to the team, but I'm feeling it for the fact that he did come from Cincinnati. You know what I mean? With Gunther being the defensive coordinator with the Raiders now, and bringing him over since he does know his stuff as far as his system. And one thing about Gunther's system is it's like Gruden's. Everybody know how complex Gruden's offense is. Gunther's defense is just as complex as well. So you have to learn it. But once you learn it, and Burfict said it himself, it's a complex defense, but once you learn it, you'll start playing fast. That's what you want these players to do, where it's no longer a second thought. It's muscle memory. Bam, they know exactly where to be, when to be there, And this is what Burfict is brought in there to be. See, one thing I know for sure that I've done, as working with different companies as a supervisor and manager and all that other stuff, is sometimes what you do to people who have great talent, but sometimes the mentality is not matching up as far as the way they should conduct themselves. What you do to those kind of people is sometimes what you do is you give them responsibility. You give them responsibility of others. Then that should bring out the leadership in that person. Because sometimes when you don't have anybody you're responsible for or any kind of leadership, you freelance. You do what you want to do. You get out there and you might want to do dirty plays. You don't have to answer to nobody. It's just you alone and that kind of mentality. But when you got youngsters underneath you that you're trying to groom and teach them the right way, sometimes your bad habits will leave. You know what? I'm not going to teach you guys this. I'm going to teach them this. I can mold them into being better than me, and that's the mentality you got to have. Mold the younger players in being bigger than you, better than you, because in that way, when your time is done, you can sit there and see this guy get all these accolades with Pro Bowl and maybe one day Hall of Fame, and then when he gets on that stage for that jacket, and he looks out into the crowd and says, "I want to give thanks to such and such who helped me become a pro." That's when you feel good about yourself. So I understand what they're trying to do. They give this man responsibility, basically being like a coach on the field. AB is the same way. And that's why these dudes are in this position where they are. You know what I mean? So they're going to get out there, get these young dudes that we get in the draft, that we have on the team as well, and go ahead and coach them and groom them up and show them exactly the right way. So this is what I'm hoping for with Burfict. And I'm pretty sure this is what they see too. Notice they try to say Antonio Brown looked kind of soft of, the way he accepted Burfict into the organization, because there was they both come from the same conference where Pittsburgh and Cincinnati then had their wars, and Burfict took a shot on Antonio Brown and looked like it knocked him out, threw a shoulder to the helmet. You know what I mean? He got fined, and he gets fined for all his hits, but some of these hits, sometimes you just got to pull back and just let it go. You know what I mean? And he didn't do it. But I give Antonio Brown a big salute for being a real man, for stepping up, being a man, showing no animosity, knowing that what goes on in the field goes on in the field, and stop trying to put us two against each other. I salute you, my brother, because you guys are on the same team. You have the same goal, and now you become allies and not enemies. You know what I mean? You can have grudges from the past, but when you sit there and look a man in his eyes and get that off your chest and then start fresh, that's what it's about. See, a lot of people, you don't deserve a second chance. Who in the hell don't deserve a second chance? You know what I mean? Everybody on this planet done had a second chance at something. For you to say that they don't deserve it, to me, that's just some old idiotic, just stupid comments. You know what I mean? People have to mess up to learn. you know. So let this dude go ahead and learn. We'll see what we got on this team when he's here and he's playing. If all the dirty plays are out the window and he just goes out there and goes hard in the paint, you know what I mean, and make big plays, that's all we want. We don't need a 15-yard penalty. And see, they expect Burfict to do that, but I know Burfict is smarter than that. He's an intelligent guy. We don't have to sit here and say, "Oh, I hope he knows he don't want to get no 15-yard penalty to lose a game." You think he does that intentionally? Sometimes he gets lost in the game and things happen, but he has to be in more control. I admit. He has to be in more control, but it ain't like he can't do it.
You want sports? We got it right here. This is the Sports Hounds Real Sports Bark Podcast.
And for the critics to just ride him and, oh, he doesn't deserve this. And same way they did Antonio Brown. Oh, he doesn't deserve a second chance. Oh, man, go on with all that, man. I'm not with that negative stuff. We got to keep this thing positive. This is the Raider Nation, the only nation. You know what I mean? We silver black, all day long. So, yeah, I see the good moves that this team is making, Gruden is making. Now there's one more phase left. The next phase is going to be the draft. How they put this draft together will be one to stamp their mark on this franchise and bringing this franchise back. You have to go in here and you have to hit on your draft picks. And that's including if you want to take one of these first rounders and trade back and get some more. You know what I mean? The more high quality talent we can have as far as building blocks, foundation for this team, and free agency is used for plugging holes, you're going to come out with a beautiful team. I mean, a team that's so even keeled, that's offense and defensive is just respected, and special teams as well. And I see that's what they're trying to do. You know what I mean? It's easy to say all this. It's on paper. I'm a realist. I'm gonna keep it 100. I'm gonna keep it real with you guys because as a fan, I know Super Bowl and okay, yeah, we're fun and games. We want to go to the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? And we're gonna say that every year because for you to be a fan of your team and you don't hope and push for your team to be in the Super Bowl to win some rings, get out of here. That ain't us. We know how the Raiders get down. We ride with each other. You feel me? So yeah, man, I'm excited with Gruden. I'm excited with Mayock. These are good additions that Mr. Mark, and you got to give Mark Davis his props. See, Mark Davis had the mind to go ahead and have a blueprint of having Gruden in the fold. Now, I don't know how Mayock got into the play of this, but that was a brilliant, beautiful pick because of his. Look at the work ethic of the two people that they got as head coach and the GM. They are known for their work ethic of the same way that these players they are signing are known for their work ethic. So they're dealing with what they know. You know what I mean? And like the old saying, what I do know is what I don't know. So they know they don't know how to try to make this team any other way but what they know. And that's just to be a grinding, blue collar, pack your lunch pail, get your hands dirty, and get in the dirt and work. Earn it. Ain't nothing given to you on a silver platter. Go earn it. And that's what these dudes, they went out there and got players that's going to earn it. And if you don't earn it, then it's out the door you go. Let's get the next one in here that can. You know what I mean? So like I said, this draft is going to be a big, big, big deal. Because if they happen to be able to hit, and I'm not even saying for the whole draft, because we know how, like they say, first round picks, you're 50-50 as far as hitting on them. Well, hell, we got 3 of them, so let's see if we can get them odds. 2 out of 3. I'll take 2 out of 3. You know what I mean? The hit, because things happen. You know what I mean? When you only can judge a player by the college ranks and not the pros, because I done seen people that was okay in college and then got to college and to the pros and flourished, and vice versa. Some that were considered the elite of college but getting to the pros and they falter. They don't pan out. You know what I mean? It just happens. And you don't know until you go through it, until you find out. So you have busts, you have success stories. It is what it is. A lot of times it's not anything to do with physical ability, because if you have physical ability, you got drafted. You know what I mean? A lot of times it deals with mentality and heart. You know what I mean? We go back to and visit the old Jamarcus Russell. It wasn't that he couldn't throw the ball. It wasn't that he wasn't big in stature in the pocket. What it was is his dedication. He didn't have the heart to want to be the greatest. Because if he had the heart and the mindset to be the greatest quarterback ever, he could have been the greatest quarterback ever. But he was into it for the money. We know it. We know this. We hear stories about it. You know what I mean? I remember when he came out. He didn't even get drafted yet. Coming out of college, out of LSU, he had a Nike swoosh lapel pin on his jacket, and I remember him saying that he wore that because he's letting them know he wants to get an endorsement deal. So he was thinking money. When they asked him who did he want to be drafted by, he said he don't care, whoever paid the most money. You know what I mean? So you already know where his mind was. His mind wasn't being in the gym, getting in shape, being the best quarterback he can be. You know what I mean? He did it for the money. You know, now sometimes people do it for the money and it pushes the best out in them, but others just think they've made it and now they can relax. They don't have to work as hard. And that, to me, that's what he did. He got that money and I made it. I don't have to work hard. But then you got other people like what Trent Brown said. What do you do now that you got all this money? He says, now work hard for the next contract. That's what you want out of your players. Knowing this is not your last contract. Work hard and get more money the next time. See, that's the money shows you what your production is, how you're seen in the league. Because you're not going to get a lot of money if you're not worth it. These teams ain't going to do it. But if they feel you're worth it, oh, that check is coming out. You know what I mean? And I like Trent Brown for going ahead and saying that he's working hard for the next contract. That is a good mindset because you know you cannot rest. You cannot rest. Your career is just starting. You're 25 years old. You got 4-year deal in. You'll only be 29 when the contract comes up. You'll be in your prime. So your prime should be your best contract. Your last contract your last big one is going to come next. So just keep working hard and it'll pay off, you know. So yeah, man, I'm really feeling these moves that this team is making. Defensive wise, like I said, there's a LaMarcus Joyner, safety from the Rams that they grabbed, which they're gonna use in a lot of the nickels and so forth on the field, which he got speed too. You got to remember, we got to face Tyreek Hill twice a year with Kansas City. I seen this dude, LaMarcus, guard Tyreek and shut it down because he cannot beat this dude speed-wise because he's just as fast, you know, and he got good coverage. You know, we picked up another, another corner from the Detroit Lions. We also picked up a safety from the New York Giants. These dudes are all under 30. See, that's another move. Here's another thing I forgot to mention is the fact that Gruden and them is working on getting dudes that's under 30 years old. They're not over 30. See, before in Mayock said, see, if you listen to Mayock and Gruden, they're telling you exactly what they're looking for and what they're trying to do. You know what I mean? Mayock said we're not looking for more older stopgaps. We're looking for young dudes that can move with this team to Vegas. So we get them under 30. If they do good, we'll sign them long term. Some of them got 1-year deals. Just we'll see what you can do. You know what I mean? And that's a good way of doing it. These contracts that they're doing are not hurting their salary cap at all. There was rumors from Chris Mortensen saying that the Raiders are cash poor. They can't afford. I remember when Le'Veon Bell was still out there. Oh, the Raiders can't afford Le'Veon Bell. They're cash poor. They just don't have. It's not the salary cap. It's the fact they don't have the money to give these guys. Get out of here with that, man. We know that the league profit shares. I think last year the league gave $8 billion to 32 teams to split. You know what I mean? That's how you keep the organization afloat. One team ain't going to do worse than the other. Now, you might have your side deals with endorsements and so forth, like naming rights and stuff like that. But as far as the ticket sales and the merchandising and the TV deals, all that is coming from the league giving the money to the teams to split equally, which means out of $8 billion, and the reason why they know these numbers because a lot of teams don't, let these numbers out. Green Bay is the reason because the Green Bay is considered a non-profit. It's not. There's no owners. The city, the people own that team, so they have transparency with their the money and so forth of that team, and they show that it was $8 billion that was split amongst 32 teams, which comes out to $250 million a team. How are they cash poor? Explain. This is what I'm trying to explain. or trying to figure out. You say they're cash poor, but they pulled in 250 million just on profit sharing alone. You know what I mean? So where is the money not coming from? Why they can't afford? You mean they paid everybody on the salary last year with no issues? We didn't hear nothing about cash poor last year. You know what I mean? And look at the contracts they gave the worthy players, the big deals, and then everybody else is getting what the market is saying their value is. They're playing it by ear. So we're going to dismiss the haters for saying that because we know that's not true. We're going to dismiss that, AB is going to be a problem in the locker room with Carr. Wait, he can't get along with Gruden. Him and Gruden ain't going to get. Man, they both work hard. They know what hard work is. When you work hard like that, you know you had a coach in your lifetime on your back telling you work harder because they knew what you were capable of doing. That's how they brought out the best in them. You don't think this dude can do that? You don't think Gruden is going to make AB one of the best receivers ever? The way they're going to use him? Come on, man. I know better than this. See, everybody not Gruden. No, you've been out the game. You was in the booth. He was observing. He's seen it from both angles, inside and outside. You know what I mean? And being in that booth was a tremendous help because when you're in the booth, you can see the whole field at one time. You know what I mean? So you see more in the booth than you do on the sideline. It's just that's what it is. You know, your range of vision, line of sight. So he's seen more. He didn't talk to more GMs and coaches and trainers and players, and he got information. They said this dude got a notebook of all these notes, and I guarantee you there were notes of if I was to ever coach again, this is what I would do. I would do an offense like this. I would have took this player and a player of this sort and done this with him. I know he has that. See, these are the hard-working dudes. They don't take this lightly. This is their life. This is their career, and they take it serious, and the work shows. You got on Gruden too early. Year one is always a throwaway year with a whole new regime at the forefront. It's a whole new thing now. New system, new coaches. You know what I mean? You got to start over. I don't know why they thought Carr was going to hit the ground running, throwing 50 touchdowns in a new system. And you could tell that the system was something that he struggled with at the beginning, trying to get used to, because I didn't see him antsy in the pocket. Like, he didn't know what to do because he was trying to remember what he was supposed to do on each play. That's where the muscle memory has to come into play when you don't have to remember. It just, you know. It's kind of like me add what's 2 plus 2. You know it's 4. You don't have to sit there, let's see, 2 plus 2. Yeah, 4. You don't have to figure it out no more because you know it. That's muscle memory. You already know the answer. And Carr, you can start seeing that he started knowing the answer towards the second half of the season when he stopped throwing interceptions. His completion rate was going up. You could talk that dink and dunk stuff. Brady does dink and dunks all the time. He got 5 Super Bowls, so don't miss me with the dink and dunks and not going long. It's nice to go if you can stretch the field, but who can you stretch the field with if you don't have the speed? You know what I mean? The only person Carr was stretching the field with last year was Cook. Cook was the fastest receiver on the team, it seemed like, but he was a big target. But now you got a big target in Tyrell Williams. You still got Marcel Aitman. I believe in the draft you go in here and you grab another. I would love for them to get Hollywood Brown, AB's cousin. That would be a nice young family member to put under AB. So when it's time for AB to walk away from the game, guess who's next in line? Hollywood Brown. And I love that name too. Hollywood Brown. Coming to you to a theater near you. Hollywood Brown and the Brown Brothers. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, I'm looking forward to the season. My Raider fans, hey, go ahead, leave comments, share, spread the word. This is the Raider edition of the Sports Hounds Real Sports Bar Podcast, episode 22. I had to do one for my squad because I'm proud of them. I see where they're going. They're headed in the right direction. Can't wait for them to get into that brand new, shiny, sparkling new stadium in Vegas next year. Man, they deserve their own place, man. And especially if we can be like cream of the crop, you know what I mean, when we get everything changed around and be in contention every year. And I see it's going to happen. It's going in the right direction, man. Like I said, this draft is going to show me a lot. It's going to tell me a whole lot of what they're trying to do and the kind of players they're trying to do it with. So, to John Gruden, Mike Mayock, Mark Davis, keep doing what you guys are doing. I'm loving the rebuild, even if it's a minor rebuild. Might even call it a reload. Just getting Carr back to what he once did, but can do it again, but better, with better weapons, better protection. It's coming. Oh, I see what they're doing. I see it. It's coming. So I just hope you guys are ready for this season, man, because it might be a surprise to everybody for this team to go from worst to first. And there's a strong possibility of that happening. You know what I mean? Free agency, I see people, concerned with the Raiders not going after defensive ends. When you have a draft this loaded with defensive ends and you got 3 first-round picks, I'm not going to free agency and paying that much money for defensive ends when I can go in there and draft my own star or 2. You know what I mean? I can get 1 or 2 with 3 first-round picks and a loaded defensive line draft. Oh, 2 of them is going to be hitters. I'm about to have hitters on this team, whether it's defensive linemen or defensive ends. But they're there. And I tell you, if everything falls into place and the Raiders grab 2 of them, y'all in trouble. Y'all in trouble. Because now we got the ability of taking some 2 young hogs and grooming them to being what they want to be. And that's Gruden grinders. I like that. Gruden grinders. Yeah. So, thank y'all for listening. This is, like I said, this has been episode 22, the Raider edition of the Sports Hounds Real Sports Bark podcast. It's yours truly, Tixter. You can catch us on Podbean. You can catch us on iTunes. And the episodes will publish on YouTube under the Sports Hound TV channel on YouTube. So thank you guys for listening. Like I said, like, share, leave a comment, whatever. Let's do this. Thank y'all.
Thanks for checking out the Sports Hounds Real Sports Bark podcast. For more exclusive content, follow us on all social media. Twitter, Sportshound 24/7. Instagram, Sportshound Media. Facebook, Sportshound Media. And on the website at thesportshound.com. And tell your damn friends about the hottest sports podcast on the web.